GMB Pros, welcome everyone that's here live. Jeffrey, Mark, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Webb himself.
How's it
I
going?
thank you everybody and those that are catching the replay. It was super encouraging today, guys. For whatever reason, Reese's GMB Pros gets a lot of reactions, and on there I told you guys, hey, jump on a call with me and I'll show you what like service pages look like and whatnot. And I got a pretty good response, and it was very encouraging to hear you guys is like you guys are finding GMB Pros valuable, even though you're not on the live, which was super encouraging. And I want to appreciate everybody, those that are on Facebook Live, those that are live with us now, and those that are on the replay. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone. We put a lot of effort into this to help you. Again, our goal of GMB Pros is twofold. Mine and William's goal is twofold. One is to help you grow your agency, right? Or two is to show you how you can get more results for your clients, right? And I think they both go hand in hand. And another thing that I like to pride myself is people that'll come on here that are in the trenches, that are doing it, that feel our pain, right? So one of the things that I've been getting requested on, and it was pretty apparent today on my appointments, that they want to see over the shoulders what it actually looks like of what we're talking about. And so I want to go back to like what I call the best practices. And one of the things that, SEO 101 should be doing is, right, I Google My Business Analytics, I Google My Business Search Console. And then there's one thing to say that, but I want to be able to show people here how to do it. How does that look like? Is there more than one method to skin a cat, right? Is there easy way, a hard way, a right way, a wrong way? So I think we can all agree as marketers here, that's like the first thing we do, right? Is there Google Analytics? Is your pages being indexed? All the information we get out of there. And I don't want to go into Jeremy's like presentation or what's going to show us, but that's what I want to show today. And I think we're going to have more of these like how-tos, right? The how-tos, of the best practices, how to do everything that we're talking about. Like, yeah, I hear you talking about it, Alfred, but what does that look like? How do we do that? How does that happen, right? So, if you guys have been with me or followed me for a little bit, you guys know when it comes to like web hosting, there's two people that I recommend, and I normally will recommend um, people that I've used, all right? And one of them is WPX, and the other one is Jeremy Webb. Guys, if you follow me for a little bit, anytime you guys ask me, hey, I just need this one-off thing, or hey, how do you do this one thing, or who do you recommend for this, or who do you recommend for that? I always you'll hear me say Jeremy. Now you can put a name to a face, right? Jeremy, he's a good guy, hard worker, knows what he's doing, a man of integrity. He's a father, and I'm glad I have him in my corner. I'm glad he's part of my toolbox, right? Gosh, I have clients that Sunday morning, they're calling me, and I'm reaching out to Jeremy, and he bails me out. He handles it. Now I gotta be careful. It doesn't mean he's always gonna do that or be available, right? But just trying to speak on Jeremy and the kind of guy he's that I have here, that I use him on my team. He's part of my team, and sometimes I just make him available to you guys. Hey, reach out to Jeremy. You get a better quote, better service, get a better idea, and directly with Jeremy. So Jeremy, again, guys, he does web hosting, he does WordPress audits, fixes things. So if you guys have been through any of my services, what I call like a precondition audits, when we need to fix some of that stuff, a lot of the times it's Jeremy that's taking care of it or running those reports for me. We kind of utilize the same tools, and depending on your guys' response, I'm hoping to have Jeremy here at least a couple of times a month, but for sure, I think I want to have him at least once a month, and then we'll let you guys decide what you want to learn as far as maybe not learn, but hey, how do you do this? I hear people talking about it, but I want to see it now, right? We're all different types of learners. One we can hear, one we learn by doing, one we learn by hearing and seeing, and how fast and easy a particular task is. So hopefully you find some more value to this. Jeremy, for those that don't know you, man, why don't you give me a little intro, like how you got to this point? How was it your family destiny with your last name that you got to work on websites? What's the deal, man?
I get that question a lot. That's funny. No, my last name actually is Webb. I was born with it. I only got into doing the website stuff a couple years ago. Most of my life I was in retail management. Wanted to do something more for the family. Did a lot of this stuff as kind of a hobby, a side thing. Decided to go full time with it about 2 years ago, and just kind of built my agency from there. Do a lot of fulfillment work with people like yourself and that kind of thing, and do a lot of bailing out, not just yourself, but I do get a lot of phone calls in the middle of the night to fix little weird things, that kind of thing. So it's always fun to have a challenge. So yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate the great introduction you had there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, he bailed me out. I've got jobs because I have Jeremy in my corner. So really, really cool guy. He has little ones as well. So I love supporting somebody like Jeremy, right? So with that being said, guys, today's topic is going to be on Google My Business, how to set it up, what information maybe we can get on there, but more importantly, how to set it up on WordPress. We're just going to use that WordPress. I think it's almost the same difference, a little bit maybe nuances that will be different, but for all intents and purposes, it'll be the same idea, same way you verify
Pretty
it.
much.
So yeah, anybody, Jeffrey, Mark, iPhone, do you guys have anything in particular you want them to cover? Because we're gonna go straight into it. Like we'll use my website, we'll log in the back end and set everything up, what we're looking for. But anything in particular you guys want to learn more or make sure we cover?
Not really. We're
Okay.
we're just all ears tonight.
Okay, cool.
Whatever it's gotta say.
And if anything pops up, guys, feel free to chime in. And we'll get it taken care of. If those that are watching me on Facebook Live, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it in the chat in the comment section, and I will get to them. So with that being said, Jeremy, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. So kind of what you were getting into is, for the most part, even if you're not on WordPress, the first way that I'll show you guys, I call it the hard way. And that is putting the actual setting up the tags, and then actually placing those tags in the code of the website. That's going to be different as far as the actual placement of where it goes in your website, depending on the platform that you're set up on. But otherwise, this first part is going to be the same to obtain your tag and set it up on Search Console and Analytics. So the first thing we'll do is, let's see here. Let me see if I share my screen here for you. Oh, I got too many screens open. Find the right one here. All right. Are you guys seeing the back end of Purpose Mind here?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, just want to make sure it's going through. All right. So, and I've got some tabs already opened up here. So for your analytics, that's going to be the first one you want to set up, is your analytics property. Mine redirects automatically because I'm logged in, but it's going to be this base here, just the analytics.google.com/analytics. And then this will have you sign into your Google account. So keep in mind that your Google account that you use for your Search Console and for your analytics should be the same. because once you set up one, it starts linking everything together from there. So make sure you're logging in with that same email each time when you go into each service. All right. So once you're in the back end here and you're signed in, it'll, if you have nothing set up at all, it'll just have a notice here to get set up. If you have another one already set like I do, there's an admin settings down here at the bottom. And up here, we're going to go to create, and we're going to create a new account. All right. And so from here, we're going to call this new account Purpose Mine because we're setting it up for him. And all of this stuff, I typically leave the same. This is basically just asking your share settings and what you're willing to share with Google. And then same thing here for the property name, Purpose Mine. And LA time, that's close enough to you. And US dollar, so we'll just do that there. We'll put you as a small business. And let's see, marketing. Oh, it's out of business. Doesn't necessarily matter for this part. Just they're collecting analytics about you as you set up. And the same thing here with the business objectives. We want to do all of these things, right? So this will help set up your property so it gets all your baseline stuff set up. For you, we just do generate leads. It used to let you select them all. I guess it doesn't let you select them anymore. There we go. And we're just accepting the data processing terms. All right. And so now we're going to start collecting data here, and we're going to set up a web platform. And from here, we can go over and we can just steal the URL here. And there we go. And we'll jump back over. We'll pop that in there. And we'll name the stream purposemine.com as well. We'll create that stream. All right. All right, so it does give you an option here to walk you through, which I'll go through that setup for you guys after this. But for this, let's go through the manual installation. And so what this is going to do, this is going to give you the actual tag that needs to be added to your site. So we can copy that right here. Now, assuming that you're using WordPress and you're setting up manually, this is the hard way for WordPress, of course, but I'll show you here. One of the quickest ways you guys can add this to your site is by going and adding a little code plugin. That way you don't actually have to modify any theme files or do anything scary, that kind of thing. So we'll just go right here, code. And this one's the more common one. WP code. All right. Where do you go? Code snippets, there we go. All right, we're going to add a new snippet. And right here, we're going to add our custom new snippet. Then from here, I'm just pasting this tag code right here into the snippet. There we go. Make it active and save the snippet. All right, so now that code should be active on your site. You can go back to your analytics here and you can do a test. So occasionally it does take a couple minutes. So if you wait a few seconds and then hit test again.
Now, while that's coming up, Jeremy, question, like with that code snippet, does the Google Analytics code need to be on like at the header, at the footer, at the front, first page, anywhere in particular?
It can go anywhere. I believe it does work better at the head, which this plugin will automatically add them to the site-wide header. Unless you change it here. But yeah, it's best to run any kind of tracking tags, whether it's Google or you're working with Facebook pixels, that kind of thing. They should all be in the head. That way it's the first thing that loads on the page so that it tracks everything that happens after that. If it's in the footer, then it could miss events in the beginning and that sort of thing.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. And just make sure that's active there. Let's test one more time here. Still not showing up. It may take a little bit of time for it to grab the tag. And that's part of the reason why I say this is kind of the harder way to do here. But as long as you have it active as a snippet, you can use multiple different plugins for it if you want. That's just the first one that I jumped to. It's one of the more popular ones there. Once you have that set up and you're in analytics, then you'd want to come over and come over to your search console. And by having this tag here, it'll auto verify. So you don't have to add any more tags to the actual website after this. You just need to go over to Search Console and create the property from there. Okay.
Now, Jeremy, what about caching? Does caching, I know with WordPress, does that affect anything?
That is a good point. You do have caching on here. So let's go ahead and purge your cache. Make sure that's all cleared out. That might fix our refresh issue here. Yeah, it's not coming up yet. It's odd. I actually just tested one just to be sure before I hopped on here, and it worked first try. So go figure. I wonder if it's because I did this on yours already a little while ago and then deleted it. It could be why it's giving me some trouble. But I always like to be prepared, so I ran through beforehand. So that being said, though, typically once you jump over here, and this is testing and it's coming through, you can come over to Search Console, which again, I'm auto logged in, but you just want to log in with the same email address that you're using for your analytics. And it's search.google.com/search-console without all this extra stuff here.
Now, does it matter which one you do, Jeremy? I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
That's okay.
Do you want to do Search Console first or analytics first?
If you're doing it the manual way like this, you want to do the analytics first, because once you add that Google tag, you don't have to do any manual verification. If you do the Search Console first, you have to do manual verification, and you'll still have to go back and add that tag. But they use the tag that you add to your site as one of the versions of verification on it. So
okay. I didn't even know that. Cool.
So otherwise, you can come over here, and assuming you don't have any, this will just have an add property here. But otherwise, at the bottom of your drop down, you'll have an add property. And from here, we'll just add in purposemind.com. And let's see what it does. Okay. So because that's not showing up with the tag on your site yet, so this is that manual that you'd have to do ahead of time if we don't have the analytics tag set up correctly. See what I'm saying there? Otherwise, this will actually just pop up and say you're auto verified because it detected the tag, and you're done. And you're tracking everything in Search Console and Analytics from there. So for the purpose of your live here, let's just go ahead and I'm going to back this up, and we're just going to pop this out so that we can kind of undo what we started here. And I'm going to show you guys the easy way to do this with a WordPress site. Okay. And it's going to set up everything we did, set up all of our tracking codes, everything there. So I wonder if that has something to do with that too. You got going here, bud. All right. So we're going to come over here and we're going to type in site kit in your WordPress plugins. Oh, sorry. You got to type in the Google part. I'm having a heck of a time tonight, man. There we go. Okay, Sitekit by Google, and we want to make sure it's actually the one by Google. Occasionally, there's some weird stuff I've seen in the WordPress market here. So we're going to go ahead and install that guy. We'll activate. And we'll go over to the dashboard, which also is right over here. I wonder if this is why I'm having problems with yours, because I did reset it. After I tested it earlier, I shouldn't have tested it on the same site. So if you ever run into something like this, for instance, even if it's after setup, you can come over here to your Sitekit settings. We can go to admin settings, and we're going to reset Sitekit. That should clear out any trouble that's going on here. There we go. Okay. So sorry for that, guys. That's what happens when I get put on the spot, I guess. All right, so Sitekit was reset. This is the normal screen that you see after you install the plugin right here. Is you're going to set up the Sitekit. We want to connect to Google Analytics as part of our setup. And then I never help us improve Sitekit. That's up to you guys. All right. I'll just connect this to mine for now. All right, so it's going to ask if it's okay that SiteKit accesses various apps, just like any kind of Google authorization does. And so now they're going to verify the ownership. This is where they actually add HTML code to the site for you, which is essentially that step that they were asking us to do when we set up Search Console. And then same thing, we're going to turn on the metrics in the dashboard. This allows us to see everything on the WordPress dashboard instead of having to go over here. Especially if it's a site owner and you just have the one site, it's much easier to see it in your WordPress dashboard that way. All right, and then also we're setting up Search Console here. And we're going to set up a Google Analytics. All right, so then it automatically generated everything here. And we're going to configure our analytics. All right, and congrats, you're set up. So all of that stuff that I showed you guys before I installed this plugin is unnecessary if you use this SiteKit plugin right here. So I only wanted to go over that stuff. That way, if for some reason you guys want to set up some manual stuff, so you do know how it's there. But I'll be 100% honest, 99% of the time, this is exactly how I do it to avoid all the other errors and all the other headaches, caching, stuff like that. And like I said, if you do run into trouble with the SiteKit plugin, by hitting that settings and then doing the reset of SiteKit, I've had weird things happen to websites, and just a quick reset of SiteKit and everything was back up and running, where people had struggled trying to go through code, that kind of thing. So, all right.
So that's really the big benefit. I don't see where you had to verify, like put that code on there to make sure you're the owner or nothing like that.
So with the first process, by adding it into that code snippet, it can see that tag on your site. And since it generated the tag and it's now on your site, it knows that you must own that site to add that in there, kind of thing. So that's how that verification process works. As far as the SiteKit, it handles everything on a Google authorization. So it just pings itself back and forth, does everything on the back end for you, kind of thing. So you don't see all the verification that it's doing, but it's actually running through all the verification methods. And it's the better way to do it ultimately, for Google's sake.
Awesome. Now, from your point of view, Jeremy, like, why is this considered SEO 101? Why is this like, I get a lot of times, like, oh, I've been working with X company for marketing.
Mhm.
And I look to see if they have Google Analytics and they don't.
So I guess from my perspective, like I mentioned when we started, I come from retail management, and retail supervision. Everything is numbers. If you don't know where your traffic's coming from, who's walking into your store. Most people don't think of their website as a store because I don't sell physical products on my store. I don't ship things out, that kind of thing. But even a basic business landing page type site is still your store, and essentially your contact me button is your cash register. You really want to know who's walking in your door, who's wandering around and leaving without, hitting the cash register. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. So for me, I don't know how you do marketing without data. And this is your data, kind of thing. Of course, there's other avenues to get data, Facebook pixels, that kind of thing. But in the grand scheme of things, if your challenge is to get in the top rankings of Google, I would definitely set up Google's tool that tracks data and that sort of thing. Also, with Search Console, for instance, a lot of times I run into it where a sitemap for a site hasn't been generated. They installed an SEO plugin but didn't run the setup of it, because most of your SEO plugins will generate a sitemap nowadays. But then they don't submit it in Search Console, and so it could take 4 weeks extra to get your pages indexed after they get up there if you're not submitting your actual sitemap index. Google will eventually find it, but why not make it easier for them? And those are some of the tools that you'll find inside Search Console as well.
Now, how do you detect, Jeremy, if they have Google Analytics? Do you have a plugin that you use or Google Search Console?
So as far as that goes, most people when I jump on with them, I ask for access to the back end and I run through and I look at the coding and that kind of thing, see what kind of setup they have. First thing I look for is the Sitekit plugin because then I know it was set up properly. That kind of thing. There are some browser plugins for like Chrome where you can actually detect in the tags, or if you want to, you can inspect the page or the source code. And the tags do show up on the page there. So there's a few different methods to see if it's set up, but the easiest ones are like the Chrome plugins and stuff like that that allow you to detect them.
Awesome. And then what kind of data do you get besides, like, I know you mentioned the sitemap or indexing for Google Analytics and Search Console that's important for the customer and you as the marketer to know to get?
Well, I mean, Search Console is going to show you all of your keywording. It's going to show you which searches you're actually showing up in, which of those searches people actually clicked on, that kind of thing, as well as the traffic data once they hit your site. Analytics will break it down very granular for you, so you can actually track. Say it's a sales funnel type site with multiple pages that people should be going through. You can find where your drop off is. So maybe they check out your homepage, they make it to your services, and I don't know, maybe your paint company, they make it to your interior painting company or your interior painting page, but no one ever clicks your contact form from there. That gives your marketing team, that's now an opportunity type thing where we can say, okay, well, what's wrong with this page? At the same time, you can look at your keywording. So just because you're throwing keywords on a page and maybe you had an amazing SEO plan when you wrote all the words for the page, doesn't mean that it's going to hit the way you thought it was. That's just the nature of it, SEO. And so you can see those kinds of things in your Search Console data as well. There's a lot in there. It's really kind of which way you want to unpack it and then kind of which direction you want to take with it. But Google's tracking everything is kind of the way I put it.
Now, on my site, is there a way to go in there and kind of browse through there? Like, okay, if you want this, go here, or what the certain things are in there, even from like a audit.
So let's see here. Let's see if we can pull back. Might have to refresh this page.
I'm stuck. Yeah.
Oh. There you go. Okay, so like I guess what kind of information are you talking about, Alfredo?
So just go through the tabs, just kind of show, okay, guys,
Yeah.
this is the overall, this is where you
Okay.
would like indexing, or let's go through overall and then I'll ask you some questions.
All right. Yeah, so your performance here, which this is an overview of each tab, kind of gives you a quick snip into them. But your performance is going to show you your actual web clicks on Google. So this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what they're doing once they land on your site. This is just that you showed up in a search and you have 22 clicks over the course of looks like a 90-day period. I think it's a standard here. Down here, you've got your indexing, which is the same as your indexing tab over here. You've got 50 pages that didn't index and then 40 of them that did. Now keep in mind, if you go into that full report, some of those pages that you'll notice, you're like, what is this? Like, I didn't create this page. It's not something I see. There's a lot of things that have to do with templates and coding and things like that that are picked up. And basically, they're not going to be indexed. It's not important to Google or to the visitor kind of thing. So that can all be narrowed down right in there. Same thing here, core web vitals. So this is going to have to do, once it starts bringing in some data for you, this will tell you how your pages are actually loading. And it's using real world data based off of like someone actually loaded your web page on their phone. How fast was that load as opposed to just running it through tools? It takes a while before this starts generating data, but over time, it will actually start to let you know how well you're performing in real life as opposed to those tools. Okay. And then enhancements, these are a lot of different things you could do. So your breadcrumbs. So for instance, when you're at the top of like an e-commerce site, you've got home, products, the category, and then the product, and it's got those little links across the top. Google really likes to see those breadcrumbs there. And so those things add into your overall I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. You're in the search when you actually show up in the search and in your main card that you have. So you've got your SEO title, you've got your SEO description there, and then occasionally you'll actually have links across the bottom. Those breadcrumbs are generated based off of good indexing practices and good SEO. And if everything's set up right, that's when you start getting those extra links underneath of your snippet there. So yeah, do you have any questions about that kind of stuff, Alfredo?
Can we go into the web or the core web vitals?
Core Web Vitals, yeah. So this is what I was breaking down here as far as it'll start showing you real world data. So you can go to Page Speed Insights now and you can run some tests. But over time, once it starts collecting that data, it'll show you the real world data in here, kind of thing. Your page experience will also help you out too. More often in development, that you want to come check over here after a new page is built. Design elements could be out of place, buttons overlapping, that kind of thing. Any kind of issues you have like that that would prevent indexing will show up usually in these in the page experience here. And then your site maps, I think that's the most important one. So this is what I'm talking about. So right here, you have site maps that have been indexed by Google. And so that means every time you load a page, it's actually already has the sitemap in there and it's checking your sitemap to see if there's updates. So in general, it'll recrawl everything eventually, but it'll actually read sitemaps and look for things of like, he actually updated a page. We'll try to get to that one first, kind of thing. And so this is where you would go in after you set up like Yoast or all-in-one SEO, and they say, hey, here's your sitemap URL. You want to make sure and put that in there right away, and that'll speed up your overall indexing process. All right.
So as far as like your index, your sitemap, could you have pages that are on your sitemap but not visible on your website? Or like customer facing?
So you mean as far as like a back end site, that type thing?
Yeah, let's say you have a page on there, like, I don't know, a service or a city page. You have it, it's on your sitemap. But if I'm looking at your website, I don't see areas of service. I don't see maybe that particular product, but it's on my sitemap.
Okay. So in that case, anytime you have published a page, it is going to show up in your sitemap. And depending on the SEO plugin and your setup, usually they have options in there to say, hey, I don't want to index images, don't create a sitemap for that, that sort of thing. As far as anything that if you don't have a link going out, that's going to be a negative on your overall SEO. And so that's the kind of stuff that shows up in like Hrefs and SEMrush reports, where you have broken links or what's the word I'm looking for? Orphan links. Sorry, like little Annie orphan child. Those are pages that there's no way to get there unless you know the link. And so that's, I think, what you're talking about is an orphan page. And that kind of thing. So those will all be in your sitemap. You can go in and add those to like your robot text if there's a reason that you don't want those indexed, but you need them live. And you don't want to link them anywhere internally in your site. Those would be added to your robots text to avoid them from being indexed, but still have them up there. Big thing with Google is they don't necessarily care what you're doing with your pages as long as you're clear about it. So, and that comes down to what does your sitemap say? What does your robot text say? And that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome. Questions, guys. Questions? Did it trigger anything on your guys' end? Carlos, iPhone, Mark, Jeffrey, anything? I'm not getting anything on Facebook.
I kind of started late, and I mean, I just saw the post, so I just came in. I understand about the Google Search Console. I
Mhm.
don't use that program that you're talking about, but I do kind of understand that. I integrate it with my customers and stuff, and I try to give them training to so they could see their own stuff. But now this what you were showing us, is this like a plug-in or something? Or an
Are we talking about
extension in Chrome?
for this here, or which part are we talking? Sorry.
Yes.
Well, I know you mentioned WP Code, or is that your website?
Oh, okay. So that was a plugin. That's a WordPress plugin. And that is specific to if we want to do a manual add of your analytics code. So at the beginning of the video, we went through and we generated a new analytics property and we generated a new Google tag here. And so if you
Okay.
want to manually add that to your WordPress site, you can do that with, and there's other plugins to do this, but basically a code snippet plugin allows you to just drop that into the head of your website. If you're not on WordPress, depending on the platform, if it's not something that has an easy add option, that would be the process that you'd want to go through is actually finding the place to drop that tag on your site, depending on the platform you're using. Does that answer your
Okay, well,
question?
see that's what I do all the time. Like I manually go in and log into the webmaster tools and
Hmm.
add that stuff.
Yeah. Now, and I'm not sure where you jumped in, but the other thing that we went over is if you set up with a WordPress site, at least, the Google Sitekit plugin will simplify the entire process for you. So if you've been manually adding tags to WordPress sites, I'm telling you, give this plugin a try. It's a few clicks, you log in, it answer your questions and preferences, and you're ready to go.
Okay, that does answer my question. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Of course.
Cool. We have
Hey,
another one, Jeremy. I don't know if you see it, but if you're using rank math, right? Um, can you use the Google plugin without any issues?
To my knowledge, there's no conflicts with rank math. So they work alongside of each other. Just fine.
And I believe you use rank math yourself, or you have in the past, right?
Yeah, I use rank math. Really depends on the site. A lot of times clients have their own SEO plugin, and I just work with that when I'm doing SEO jobs. And in my experience, I've seen Sitekit and rank math side by side. Of course, full disclaimer, there's all kinds of setups, and it's possible you'll run into something. But in general, yeah, they work just fine. I've heard things over the years where people have told me that not to use Sitekit. And I guess my only back to that is why would Google put out a plugin that they don't want us to use? So I think they simplify the process. They get all the tags, that kind of thing in there. And then people like Rank Math, all in one SEO. If there is any conflict, they're going to work that out. They don't want to have conflicts with a big plugin like Google Sitekit.
Have you worked with Squirrely SEO?
One more time.
Have you worked with Squirrely SEO?
Squirrely? No, I'm not familiar.
Ah, okay.
Good questions, guys. So,
Hey, Jeremy. All of my sites are lead gen sites.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm guilty of set it and forget it kind of thing, don't really go back in there and look at it very much. But is there
Mhm.
any advantage of changing it? It's been set up with HTML tags, the
Mhm.
old kind of fashioned way. So as long as it's in there, right? I mean, there's nothing to gain by changing anything at this point.
At this point, no. As far as if you wanted to install Sitekit, you would have, some things on your dashboard. It'll start generating data there for each site if that's an easier in your workflow.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no. The only thing that's kind of a benefit, I've run SiteKit for clients when they wanted to upgrade to the GA4 properties. So if by chance you still have any of your old Universal Analytics properties, it does make it easier. Just install SiteKit and it will transfer all the data as part of that setup.
Let's see. The other thing you mentioned about having a site map up for pages, let's say you talked about in Alfredo gave an example of like a location page and somebody's somehow searching on that and you don't have a site map up for that particular page. You made a statement about having a negative impact, maybe.
And so again, I always like to say I'm not the full expert on this. So I don't really know what impacts what at the end of the day. But my understanding of it is that you want your site map to be as complete as possible, unless there's some off the wall reason that you're not indexing or you're not looking to have that page indexed. But more times than not, your SEO plugins they're adding every page to your sitemap as long as it's published. You don't have a whole lot of control on that standpoint, other than adding them to your robots text to be de-indexed. And so there's
I always just added one site map.
I mean, ultimately Google looks at it as like, well, why is this page orphaned? And then why did you not tell us not to index it in your robot text? That's kind of my understanding. Everything that Google's looking for, that I've run into, is just structure and kind of full disclosure. Like, hey, I have this page here. I don't want it to index. I want this to index instead. That type of thing, and just that overall structure. So that's kind of where the negative impact comes, is you will start to have orphan pages. And then if you believe the big guys like Ahrefs and SEMrush, they basically say, if you don't have 100% score on our audit tool, then you can't rank on Google, kind of thing. And those are some heavy ranking factors on all of the different tools that you'll run into.
This is kind of digressing a little bit, but I have a couple of sites where I have 140 backlinks and 30 referring domains, and my competition has nothing, and they're outranking me. And I know you can have those good backlinks. There's 10 good backlinks or go do follow or better than 100 no follow. I'm familiar with all that, but sometimes I wonder how all this ties together when you get all of these backlinks in your associated in your domain, and it looks like it's almost having a negative impact.
I have seen with websites that were hacked that suddenly had crazy amounts of what I call trash backlinks. They weren't reputable sites that were backlinking and that kind of thing. And we actually had to go in there and submit massive removal lists to clean it up. Yeah, the disavow lists. And yeah, it really does make a difference on the quality of your backlink profile, of course. And then I think overall too, from what I'm learning with all of their new changes in the last 6 months or so over at Google, they're so focused at the end of the day on the user experience. And with so much more algorithms and AI being added into, I'm sure, all of their stuff, they're focused on what is the end user experience of your website. Is it structured? Can they find the information that they're looking for? Once they get there, is there an easy way to get from page to page? And if I'm looking at this and there's these relevant pages, do we link to those? That kind of thing. And so that's giving you pretty much an overall score bump just by having a very structured site, very user-friendly site, that kind of thing. And then of course, content, your keyword relation, if half your site's about painting and the other half's about car mechanics, you're probably, you're going to hurt yourself there. You want to split those two sites up, that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of overall. I think I got off topic a little bit, sorry. But I think that that kind of covers is just that user experience at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean to go down.
Oh, you're fine. Oh, you're fine. If you want to send me a message, we won't hijack the rest of their call, kind of thing. But I'm always happy to answer questions and kind of philosophize about it all.
No, and
Appreciate
I appreciate it that, Mark, because this is what this is about, like best practices, right? Like we look at sites like that. That's why one thing that William, Lee, Fletcher have taught me is like that whole diversification of ranking factors, right? Like there's not one thing that will make a difference.
Exactly.
But I think with these kind of courses that I want to bring Jeremy into is like the best practices, like Google Search Console, analytics. And then so you can have actually like build out a page, put it in your sitemap, but not make it quote unquote like a menu and make it accessible to the client and still do the interlinking. So it's not that orphan page. In fact, I went over that like 3 calls today from previous GMBs that people wanted to see how that looked like. But more importantly, like these are the basics, right? So, we want everything is off of keyword, everything is off of content, um, you know, um, on the page, and technical stuff. This I think falls into like more the technical stuff, or you can investigate your technical stuff. Like if your sitemap only has 5 pages or it has 100 pages, but Google only sees 5 of them, right? There's somewhere of a disconnect. That's like what I call like preconditioned stuff that you need to fix. So at least you're in the ball game, or you can start to get close to that sandbox you want to play in your niche, in your area, to be ranked #1. But as we move along here with kind of with Jeremy, is to kind of show you these things. Okay, like how do you do Google Analytics? How do you do Google Search Console? And what are the different things in there? And we did a very basic. There's people that really go deep dive into them, right? But it's more of like set this up so you can use the data that it collects, so you can make data-driven decisions, like why aren't things happening, right? As far as the technical stuff on there. And maybe on the next one, Jeremy, we can do Bing. I'm really into Bing. Lee really taught me this. Like, hey, Bing is more technical. Like if you don't care about your technical stuff on your website, Bing won't care either, right? So they force you to kind of like get your crap together, get your site in order, get your house in order. That way I can at least like, okay, start tracking you, start indexing you, start showing you up. Because if you get Bing's attention, believe me, you're gonna get Google's attention. And so think of it like in that sense, right? But it's the best practices, keywords, variations, LSI, entities, the right amount of content, the right amount of headers. Does it, is indexing, Google Search Console, is it rendering correctly? And we'll get into that as we move along in these courses, especially with Jeremy. Like I said, I want to have him at least here once a month. And if things really go well and you guys, things go maybe twice a month, I don't want to burn him out. But I want to give you guys kind of useful over the shoulder stuff. And I hope we delivered on that today. So any other question, guys? We're coming up to the 50-minute mark. Any other questions?
No, I'd like to get, my wife is really the Google guru as far as doing Google stacks and, what else does it, Gil, that you do? She,
What, the GBP?
GBPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who digs in with that stuff. So I'll get her
Nice.
on here next time and let her say a few things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate everybody that's on here supporting and pitching in and making these very interactive. So before I let you guys go, is there any particular direction you guys want to take this to as far as the next one, best practices? Because I know me and Jeremy have discussed a few ideas, but I just want to make sure that if anybody on here has them, we'll put those on top of the list.
No.
I have another question.
Just
Yeah, go for it, Carlos.
Go back and
There's some pages that
which I can't.
I create for myself and for customers that I don't want Google to index. And those pages, I don't include them in my WP site. I create directories on the server, so they have to click to that. And I create that with HTML and CSS, so that nobody else could access them unless they go and click on the link. What do you think about that?
I'll leave that one up to Jeremy.
They are orphan pages.
It's going to depend on how your sitemap's being generated. If you're generating a manual sitemap, I just assume that you weren't putting them in there. If you're using any kind of SEO plugin or anything like that, the fact that they're separate directory on the server, it's definitely going to be different. So they shouldn't show up in your sitemap, so they wouldn't create orphan pages in a sense, since they weren't in the sitemap to begin with. The bigger issue with the orphans is if they're in the sitemap, there should be an internal link somewhere in there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in your menu on your home page. But if I go to home services, I'm in a service page, is there a link somewhere in the route from the home page where I can get to this page? But from what you're talking about, that sounds like those pages are essentially separate completely, and your sitemap plugins aren't going to create anything based on those pages.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate everyone that's on here. So just to give you a recap, next or tomorrow, I should say, we have Drew coming on Wednesday. We have Chris Palmer, and on Thursday we have Chris on influence and affiliate marketing. It should be a great week, some new stuff coming on. So we have 2:30 tomorrow, 5 o'clock Wednesday, 6 o'clock on Thursday, 6 o'clock. These are all Pacific Standard Time, guys. So we look forward to you guys joining us for those. And with that being said, guys, much love, much success, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.